This nickname was given to a female passenger who had an altercation with Ibom air crew members. Following the earlier incident involving Kwam, Seun Kuti's post connects current airport incident to past events involving former governor Oseni and the Air Peace Airline. His message appears to be asking Oseni to forgive whatever happened in the past so that Nigerian airports can return to normal operations. What do you think about Seun Kuti's explanation for the recent airport incidents? Do you believe there could be a connection between past events and current problems? And do you think Oseni has a hand in this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found
All right, all right. Welcome. If you're just joining us, this is the arena, and just about 5 minutes past the hour mark of 8, and of course we are looking at we're doing a sequel to the conversation we had yesterday when we looked at the infractions that had the recent developments. You know, on Sunday, a passenger was on said to be unruly on Ibom air flight, I think from Lagos to Abuja, and I beg your pardon, from in Lagos, and it ended up having seeing that passenger being forcefully removed and ending up to reminded in Kirikiri prison. But yesterday, following public outcry, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, announced the withdrawal of criminal complaints against Ayinde Wasiu, also known as Kwam 1, and Comfort Emmanson, who was recently involved in unruly behaviors at the airport, both in Abuja and in Lagos. Now, Keyamo, in a statement yesterday, said that over the past 48 hours, he had engaged in consultations with critical stakeholders, and critical stakeholders in the aviation sector and individuals involved in the unfortunate incident. Now, according to the minister, although regrettable, the event have served as important case studies for both the traveling public and airline personnel on the importance of decorum, compliance, and professional handling of security matters within the aviation space. Now, he also directed the Commissioner of Police, Airport Command, and the police prosecutor to take immediate steps to secure Emmanson's release from Kirikiri prisons within the week. Now, also following an appeal by the minister, the Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, has agreed to lift the lifetime flying ban imposed on Emmanson in the case of Fuji music star Wasiu Ayinde Anifowoshe. The minister has directed the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, to reduce his flight ban to 1 month. Also, in the case of Value Jets captain Oluranti Oguyi and First Officer Ivan Oloba, who were sanctioned in relation to the incident, the duo will have their licenses restored after serving a 1-month suspension and undergo mandatory professional reappraisal. Meanwhile, a Lagos magistrate court sitting in Ogba, Lagos, yesterday discharged Emmanson following the withdrawal of the magistrate. Olariwaju Salami struck out the case after the charge filed by the police was withdrawn. However, Keyamo has justified his reasons for giving Wasiu Ayinde a public ambassador for proper airport security protocol awareness. Keyamo said, and I quote, "For further clarification, it is an uncommon practice all over the world that akin to community service, it is not paid for and it is voluntary service." End of quote. He said that the Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, has also considered using Emmanson as its own ambassador for good passenger conduct. In another development, the Nigerian Bar Association and the International Federation of Female Lawyers, FIDA, have condemned the remanding of Emmanson. They noted that her rights to dignity, freedom of movement, and due process were flagrantly breached. Also, the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, has called for a comprehensive legal overhaul of Nigeria's airline operations, with a particular focus on strengthening protections for passengers' rights. Now, it also condemned the alleged inhuman and degrading treatment of Emmanson. The National Human Rights Commission Executive Secretary Dr. Tony Ojukwu, SAN, who spoke during a media press briefing yesterday, described the acts captured in viral videos as a severe breach of dignity, privacy, and human rights. So that's just to establish, the conversation for this morning on the arena. The fact that the Minister of Aviation, in the person of Festus Keyamo, has justified the ambassadorial position to musician Wasiu Ayinde, barrister Anifowoshe, aka Kwam 1, and of course he said that the aviation operation, the AON, is considering using Comfort Emmanson as their own ambassador. And of course, the courts have discharged Comfort Emmanson over her unruly behavior, all charges withdrawn, and the NHRC, Human Rights Commission, has asked them that there is need to end human rights abuses as far as the aviation sector is concerned. Funny enough, yesterday I did highlight that or uncover the fact that so far there has been over 11,000 complaints about airlines, and one wonders, I mean, did it have to take Sunday's incident for these issues to begin to be addressed? There's been all kinds of conversations about how passengers have been treated. In fact, yesterday I met a friend shared his experience where a 10 o'clock flight, a flight that was scheduled to take off at 10 a.m. Was rescheduled all the way to 7 p.m. From 10 to 12, from 12 to 2, from 2 to 5, from 5 to 7. And at some point, he had to demand for a refund of his money. And so these are one of several incidents that I've handled. And there have been all kinds of conversations with regards to the incident, the high point of these infractions that happened on Sunday. Particularly after viral videos went around about how Comfort Emmanson had to be, indignified, and her rights breached, all in the name of following aviation regulations and all of that. Social media is still agog of the matter, but I need you to take a listen to this.
The federal government just appointed the same musician who caused chaos at Abuja Airport as an ambassador for proper airport behavior. Kwam the Ultimate went from being banned from flight to becoming the face of aviation security in just 1 week. The breaking news was announced today by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo. He revealed that Fuji musician Wasiu Ayinde Marshal, popularly known as Kwam the Ultimate, has been appointed as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol. This decision comes just days after the singer was involved in a major controversy at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja on August 5, 2025. During that incident, Kwam the Ultimate got into a heated fight with ValueJet airline staff and security officials. The trouble started when airport security stopped him from boarding with a flask. According to reports, he spilled liquid from the flask on airline personnel and then walked onto the airport runway, physically preventing a plane from moving. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, known as NCAA, initially placed K1 the Ultimate, also known as Kwam, on a no-fly list for 6 months a year. However, everything changed after the musician and everyone was upset by his actions. K1 the Ultimate also explained that the flask contained water for medical purposes, not alcohol, as he announced that the NCAA will reduce the flight ban from 6 months to just 1 month. Even more surprising, they are completely withdrawing the criminal charges against the singer. But the biggest shock is the new appointment. The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, called FAN, will now work with K1 the Ultimate as the ambassador. His job will be to teach people about proper behavior at airports and raise awareness about following security rules. Minister Keyamo explained that this decision was made on compassionate grounds because the singer showed genuine remorse for his actions. The minister said, having publicly shown remorse, the NCAA will also withdraw its criminal complaint against Kwam. FAN will partner with the music star to engage him as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol going forward. These announcements created mixed reactions across Nigeria. Some people are praising the government for showing mercy and giving the musician a chance to make things right. What's your take on this surprising development? Do you think K1 the Ultimate deserves this second chance? Or should there be more consequences for breaking airport security rules? Share your honest opinion in the comments below.
So you heard it. Okay, so let's begin to look at some of the reactions. Don't forget, the show is live and interactive, meaning that you can be part of the conversation. The studio line is open. It's live. You can hit us up on 0808 312 8618. 0808 312 8618. Those are the numbers. And of course, remember, when you do call in, tell us your name, your location, and keep your contributions straight to the point, concise, so that we can take as much calls as possible. It's just about 16 minutes past the hour mark of 8, and we are looking at the fallout of development. Yesterday we did talk about what happened on Sunday, and took it as far back as when former Edo State Governor, former APC National Chairman, former Labour Union President, talking about Senator Adams Oshomole shutting down the airport, and then months later, what we saw was Kwam, now on Sunday we now had Kwam 2, right? But reactions have continued to trail the move by the federal government to withdraw all charges against Kwam 1 and of course against Comfort Emmanson. The senior special assistant on media to the Delta State Governor, Oseni Success, has offered a paid job and an all-expense paid trip to Comfort Emmanson, the Akwa Ibom air passenger recently released from Kirikiri prison. Now, in an Instagram post on Wednesday, Oseni announced that a monthly salary of 500,000 had been secured for Emmanson in Delta State. The package also includes flight tickets, accommodation in a 5-star hotel, a guided tour, and a ticket to the Delta Social Media Summit scheduled for August 28 in Asaba. And he was quoted as saying, and I quote, "I am offering Comfort Emmanson a complimentary trip to Delta State, known as the Big Heart and the home of Global Tourism Hub. Additionally, a job opportunity with a monthly salary of 500,000 has been secured for her in Delta State. All expenses, including flight tickets, accommodation in a 5-star hotel, and tour cost will be fully covered." End of quote. Oseni added that the trip was to help her relax after her release, saying, and I quote, "I would like to extend an invitation for her to visit Delta State and unwind after her release from Kirikiri prison. She won't be disappointed as I will be giving her a good time." The governor's aide urged anyone in contact with Emmanson to ask her to reach out to him directly. So those are part of the reactions that are the fallouts of the move by the federal government to withdraw all the charges, from against Kwam One and of course Comfort Emmanson. And of course the federal government's decision to withdraw criminal charges against Comfort Emmanson and reduce flight ban imposed on Fuji music star Wasiu Ayinde Marshall, also known as Kwam One, continues to spark controversy as far as the aviation industry is concerned. While some industry stakeholders and pilots describe the government's decision as hasty and wrong, considering the gravity of the musician's offense, others welcome what the government has done. The Minister of Aviation, and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, announced yesterday, Wednesday, that the federal government, withdrew its criminal complaint against Emmanson and reduced Kwam One's 6-month flight ban to a month. Now, the minister also revealed that Kwam One had been appointed as ambassador of airport security. So, however, some industry experts express their disappointment with the government's decision. Former chief pilot Captain Mohammed Badamosi said, and I quote, "Sometimes when you don't fully grasp a situation, the best thing to do is to step back. Take Emmanson, for example. I have no problem with the decision to grant her a pardon, but the decision to make the musician an airport safety ambassador, despite his involvement in a serious security breach, makes no sense." Retired Group Captain John Ojukwu described the government's move as embarrassing and dangerous, particularly given Nigeria's international obligations to the International Civil Aviation Organization. And he was quoted as saying, "To make Wasiu Ayinde a symbol of airport security is not just inappropriate, it's disgraceful." End of quote. A senior aviation professional who spoke under the condition of anonymity criticized the government's knee-jerking reaction and warned that it could have lasting consequences. The action taken were hasty and lacked due process. Emotions took over, and now we have bundled unrelated issues together and issued sweeping reversals. That is not how policy should work. End of quote. On the other hand, the president of the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers, Galadima Agbenego, welcomed the federal government's intervention in resolving high-profile aviation disputes involving the Ibom Air passenger and Kwam One. Now, according to Abednego, he described it as an opportunity to learn lessons and improve security checks at the airport. He commended the prompt response by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. He was quoted as saying, and I quote, "The Minister and NCAA acted swiftly. I think we can learn from the lesson. We can learn the lesson and move on." End of quote. Well, the controversy surrounding the government's decision highlights the need for a more nuanced approach to addressing aviation security issues in Nigeria. As the industry continues to evolve, it is essential to prioritize safety, security, and professionalism. In related news, some industry stakeholders have also questioned the airline operators of Nigeria's decision to impose a lifetime ban on Emmanson. Roland Iyaji, President and CEO of Top Brass Aviation Limited, argued that no airline or airline association has the authority to unilaterally bar an individual from flying across all airlines due to a single incident. Group Managing Director of Finch Glow Group, Bankole Bernard, also condemned the AON's move, describing the lifetime ban as a draconian decision and calling for it to be reconsidered. Bernard emphasized that AON is an industry association and not a regulatory authority, and therefore does not have the legal mandate to enforce travel bans. So, you tell me what you think. I know yesterday, one of our callers was like, hey, you didn't open the phone lines on time for us to discuss issues of national importance like this. Well, the phone line has been open for quite a while, and we are waiting for your interactions on this matter. Of course, it has become public knowledge. Almost every Nigerian is following the development ever since the videos went viral about how Emmanson was practically dragged out of an Ibom Air plane, and of course, the varied reactions had followed that video, and of course, now that the federal government has decided to be magnanimous enough to withdraw all charges against both Comfort and Kwam 1, reactions have continued to follow. So let's hear from you. Tell us, what do you think? Is this the move in the right direction? The move by the federal government, do you consider it too hasty? What are the lessons to be learned from this development? How do we begin to tackle these scenarios that have occurred moving forward? I did say yesterday and highlighted the fact that over 11,000 complaints have been lodged against various airlines in the aviation industry in Nigeria. And my question really has been, did it have to take the indecent incident that happened on Sunday for the aviation industry to begin to take the complaints of passengers? Where does the right of a passenger, a valued customer, starts and ends as far as the aviation industry in Nigeria is concerned? Big questions. So hit us up. Tell us what you think on 0808-312-8618. 0808-312-8618. And you get to be part of the conversation. Don't forget to tell us your name, your location, and of course, make your contributions concise. And most importantly, keep it civil. I know following the kind of interactions on social media, a lot of things have been said. In fact, yesterday, there was a cross-section of Nigerians who were beginning to have some sympathy and empathy for the Ibom Air flight attendant who had come under heavy scrutiny. And you know the irony of this, once a incident happens, Nigerians have a way of digging up your past, and before you know it, social media was flooded with incidents of complaints against that particular air steward on Ibom Air. And I remember yesterday a friend said to me that, look, Nigerians we need to learn not to be emotional. That basically what has happened since Sunday is a flare of emotions has flooded the entire media space, and that there is need to begin to look at issues objectively and following due process to ensure that, one, the matter is effectively settled, and two, that lessons are learned to improve service delivery in the aviation sector. But shock, indignation, of course, continued to follow. Even yesterday, greeting the federal government's release of Comfort Bob and, of course, the reduction of the 6 months no-fly ban placed on Fuji musician Wasiu Ayinde, aka Kwam 1. In fact, Comfort had been dubbed Kwam 2, and I can tell you some Nigerians are waiting for a Kwam 3, and we are hoping that the move by the federal government will effectively put to a halt the possibility of a Kwam 3. Why? Right? So this development are situations that have elicited all kinds of conversations, yes, or across board. But the fact is that despite the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace announcing the release of the Ibom Air passenger and cutting of the no-fly ban on Kwam 1, the legal luminaries, some lawyers, including human rights activists, Femi Falana, SAN, aviation stakeholders as well, and civil society groups have disagreed with the move by the federal government. They've disagreed with the Minister of Aviation, saying government has no right to do what it did without following due process. Now, the aviation stakeholders were particularly aghast that the minister absurd the functions of the regulatory agency, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, in making his declaration yesterday. Meanwhile, an Ikeja magistrate court sitting in Ogba did highlight that did discharge Comfort Emmanson after all formal withdrawal of all cases and charges against her were withdrawn. Right now, the charges had alleged that Comfort Bob disrupted the peace on board the Ibom Air flight, assaulted a crew member, and conducted herself in a manner capable of breaching public order. She had pleaded not guilty at her arraignment. However, during yesterday's proceeding, police prosecutor Inspector Samuel Ishola informed the court that the complainant and the airline are no longer interested in pursuing the matter. So he applied for a withdrawal of the case, citing instructions from the police authorities. And this also suggests that the probe that was instituted by the IGP of police, Kayode Egbetokun, also has been stopped. He had issued a probe, I think on Monday, shortly after the incident on Sunday, asking that the airport command investigate the issue, the incident that involved Fuji music star Ainde Wasiu, aka Kwam 1. So automatically, everything has been put on hold. Now, breaking her silence on Instagram, Soft Comfy, that's the handle for Comfort Bob, after being discharged, Comfort wrote, and I quote, "Thank you so much for all the prayers, love, and support. I've been released from prison, but I'm still in pains due to how I was treated. I just need some rest and medical treatment before I give out my own version of the event. Thank you so much, my lovely friends and supporters. I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all." End of quote. Now, announcing Comfort's release in a statement earlier, Keyamo said that in the last 48 hours, I have been in consultation with critical stakeholders in the aviation sector and those involved in the unfortunate incident regarding the unruly behavior of certain individuals at our airports. Though regrettable, we think value lessons have been learnt by all sides to these incidents, and airport security protocol, especially having been well highlighted for the traveling public. If nothing at all, the episodes have undoubtedly helped raise public awareness about appropriate conduct within the aviation the aviation space. Now, as highlighted in my previous statements on the last two incidents, clear wrongs were committed by both the offending passengers and staff of the airlines involved. From all the evidence available to us and those available to the public, it is clear that all the actors involved cannot continue to highlight the injury or injustice done to them without acknowledging their own equal culpability. Therefore, after reviewing the entire incident, including appeals made by well-meaning individuals and remorse shown by the actors, the following decisions have been reached. Now, in the case of Ibom Airline and Miss Comfort Emmanson Bob, on Sunday, the 10th of August 2025, I have conferred with Ibom Air to withdraw the complaint against her. When the police took her statement in presence of her lawyer, she exhibited great remorse for her conduct. B. Subsequent to the withdrawal of the complaint by the complainant, the CP of Airport Command and the police prosecutor will immediately take the remaining steps to facilitate her release from Kirikiri prison within the week. C. I have also conferred with the leadership of the Airline Operators of Nigeria (AON) and have appealed to them to lift the lifetime flying ban imposed on her, to which they agreed. The details of the resolution will be made public by the AON subsequently. In the case of ValueJet and Wasiu Ayinde Kwam 1, D. In the case, Fan will also work with the music star with a view to engaging him as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol going forward. E. Having publicly demonstrated penitence, the NCAA is also to withdraw its criminal complaints against Kwam 1 earlier lodged with the police. F. In the case of Captain Oluranti Oguyi and the co-pilot, First Officer Ivan Oloba of ValueJet, the NCAA is to restore their licenses after the same period of 1 month ban after undergoing some mandatory professional reappraisal. The details will be announced by the NCAA. Airline operators, aviation and other government agencies. D. 1. I have directed all relevant aviation agencies in collaboration with other complementary agencies outside aviation to immediately begin a retreat next week to properly retain and prepare our aviation security personnel on how to deal with errant and disruptive passengers, and how to de-escalate potentially explosive situations. The retreat will be fully covered by the press with the opportunity to ask all relevant questions. The airlines will also have their own session when they conduct, and an attitude of their staff towards members of the traveling public will be in full focus. Final comments. These above decisions were taken by government and airline operators purely on compassionate grounds, as government will never pander to base sentiments, politically motivated views, or wrapped legal opinions when clear encroachment of our laws are involved. We are also sending a clear message that we take safety and security in the aviation sector very seriously, and we have decided to draw a line after these clemencies. Disagreeing with the federal government, human rights lawyer Femi Falana, SAN, said in a statement, and I quote, "The Office of the Inspector General of Police has commenced investigation into the serious criminal allegations leveled against Fuji star Wasiu Ayinde Marshal, popularly known as Kwam 1, over his recent conduct at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. One of the allegations being investigated is that the suspect opened his flask and poured its contents on a pilot, a security officer, and some passengers. Now, without allowing the police to conduct the investigation and possibly filed charges against the suspect, the federal government has hastily accepted his apology and granted him pardon. As if that is not enough, the federal government has announced plans to engage the suspect as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol after the recent controversy. Now, it's doubtful if the federal government has considered the full implication of the handling of the case of Kwam. By this hypothetical action, the federal government has lost its moral right to arrest and prosecute any passenger who commits an offense at any of the nation's airports. For instance, the federal government decided to withdraw the charges filed against Ms. Comfort Emmanson in the magistrate court. The passenger accused of unruly behavior aboard an Ibom Air flight because of refusal to charge Kwam with appropriate criminal charges. Since citizens have equal rights, obligations, and opportunities before the law, the federal government will henceforth be accused of subjecting any unruly passenger to discriminatory treatment on the ground that Kwam was pardoned without any criminal trial whatsoever. So, reacting in a similar manner, legal practitioner and executive director of the Cadrell Advocacy Center, Evans Ufeli, argued that while compassion is laudable, it must not come at the expense of aviation safety and accountability. He faulted the minister's assertion that both passengers and airline staff bore equal blame in incidents of unruly behavior, stressing that such disruptions were not minor disputes but serious breaches of safety protocols that protect passengers and crew. Now, according to Ufeli, excusing offenders on grounds of remorse risk encouraging impunity, undermining the strict standards that govern the aviation sector. Now, if we do not maintain a zero tolerance policy towards unruly behavior, we risk creating a culture where passengers believe they can act recklessly without consequence. So the lawyer also questioned the logic of appointing Kwam as an ambassador for proper air conduct so soon after penalizing him for disrupting a flight. He described the move as contradictory and potentially damaging to public trust in aviation governance. On his part, Executive Director Global Rights Nigeria, Abiodun Baiwa, said, and I quote, the government doubled standard of those above and beneath the law were very manifest in their handling of the two incidents. The more grievous incident of physically trying to obstruct an airplane on the tarmac and attempting to carry alcohol on a commercial flight was met with a slap on the wrist and punishment for the crew because Kwam is a politically connected person, while Comfort Bob did not only suffer the indignity of being violently stripped by the crew of Ibom Air, she also found herself instantly thrown into kirikiri for the alleged crime of not switching her phone off promptly. Now, where is the equality before the law that our constitution stipulates? The U-turn by the Ministry of Aviation to reduce the ban and subsequently discharge by Ibom Air was only a face-saving response to the outcry by active citizens on social media and does not reduce the damage inflicted on Ms. Bob. Punitive measures ought to be taken against the crew of Ibom Air who stripped her naked and mistreated her. They were also quick to video her nakedness and share on social media. Whatever happened to her right to dignity? Why is she being forgiven rather than protected and avenged by the law? So these are the questions that are coming up, and these are conversations that are already brewing. Like I did tell you yesterday, I was in a gathering where this conversation, elicited all kinds of reaction. Take for example, activist Deji Adeyanju said, and I quote, they are not ready to apply rule of law. with regards to the aviation sector, there appears to have been a deliberate attempt to make Kwam 1 not face the law. That is the reason they have now withdrawn the charge against him. Then there is the lady who had allegedly slapped the flight attendant and allegedly used a fire extinguisher to attack passengers on board. These are clear violations of aviation laws which should have been prosecuted. Well, aviation industry analysts were more stringent in their condemnation of the development, insisting that the actions of Kwam 1 and Comfort Board contravene provisions of the NCAA regulations. Now, according to Part 17.89 of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority regulation, known as NIG CAS 2023, any passenger who becomes unruly at the airport too, the word unruly as used in this section refers to but is not limited to the following acts: B, use of mobile phones and or other communication electronic gadgets on board an aircraft without the approval of the aircraft commander. C, fighting or other disorderly conduct on board an aircraft or at the terminal building. D, any conduct, act constituting a nuisance to other passengers. E, disobedience of lawful instructions issued by the aircraft commander, flight crew, cabin attendants, check-in staff, or security screening staff. F, any conduct that endangers or is likely to endanger the safety of flight operations. 17.89.1.3, where any passenger becomes unruly on board an aircraft or at the terminal building, the aircraft commander or airport authority shall take necessary measures, including restraint where necessary, A, to protect the safety of the aircraft, terminal building, or of persons or properties therein, or B, to maintain good order and discipline on board or at the terminal building and to enable him deliver such person to competent authorities. Against this background, industry analysts have said that the minister's move was not only shameful but damaging to the country's reputation. They argued that the minister's actions showed that Nigeria is not following the rules of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and the International Air Transport Association, IATA. So, while ICAO is specialized agency of the United Nations, that coordinates the principles and techniques of international air navigation and fosters the planning and development of international air transportation to ensure safety and orderly growth. IATA is a global trade association of airlines that sets standards for safety, security, efficiency, and represents airline interests worldwide. Right? So, industry stakeholders, industry analysts have continued to react to yesterday's move by the federal government to stop all charges against Kwam 1 and Comfort Bob, as the case may be. So, so much talk about and like as I said, social media is agog with reactions. It's been a back and forth since Sunday, and we also would like to get your reactions, your contributions to this conversation. The studio line is 0808-312-8618, and you can be part of the conversation. Because I think the biggest question here is, first of all, in as much as there is talk about aviation regulation, aviation safety, aviation security, my biggest question, or the question that continues to rear in my head is, where does the rights of passengers, aviation passengers, airline passengers, where does their rights starts and ends? I remember yesterday at that during that conversation, I said, I know that there is a common saying that the customer is always right. And somebody said to me, not any longer in Nigeria. And then that brought up the issue of the rights of the customer and the consumer. Of course, the argument suggested that yes, there are agencies and departments that are saddled with the responsibility, both within the aviation industry and outside the aviation industry, to protect the rights of customers. But surprisingly, as I said yesterday, it became evident that so far there's been over 11,000 complaints, and not one of those complaints had been dealt with decisively, with concerns to service delivery in the aviation sector. And one begins to wonder, when will we begin to take the issue of customer service serious? Because some have said that customer service is almost non-existent in Nigeria. And I think that was one of the issues Senator Adams Oshomole was trying to highlight when his incident happened several months ago, before that of Ainde Wasiu Marshall, aka Kwam 1. That there is need for us to begin to look at the customer service sector of across board, not just the aviation industry, but across board. So the question remains, where does the rights, do we actually have rights? There are constitutional rights and all of that. There are rights empowered by the law, but are these rights enforced? Are these rights truly recognized? Or does it have to take incidents like the one we saw on Sunday, where Comfort Bob was indignified and her rights breached, as has been highlighted by learned legal luminaries, and the fact that yes, also on the part of the aviation operators, certain rules were breached. But some will argue that the rules are meant to be broken. Now, could it be that what the incident that happened on Sunday was one of those incidents where the rule needed to be broken, so as to also show the lapses within the aviation industry, within the aviation sector, and with particular regard to service delivery, customer relations, customer rights, and all of that? I mean, these are pertinent questions. We have just about 4 to 5 minutes to go, and the phone line is still open. You can still take your reactions to this development as we wrap up today's edition of The Arena, right here on 96.1 FM, the voice of the people. Like we like to say, now you have a voice. So let's look at it. How do we make progress? Of course, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development has said the fallout of all of this is that now there's going to be a retreat where all stakeholders will come together, look at airport security, airline operations, airline safety, and most importantly, airline passenger service delivery. Yes, customer service, right? From point of entry to point of delivery, as the case may be. And we are hoping. And then don't forget that the Senate Committee on Aviation has also said they will investigate, and that their whatever resolutions they come to will be long-lasting and far-reaching, to ensure that incidents as the one we saw on Sunday will not repeat itself. But surprisingly, even as of yesterday, we hear that there were 1 or 2 incidents on Ibom Air regarding onboard passengers, and we are hoping that Ibom Air, ValueJet, and all the other airlines have taken a cue from what has happened, and that by the time all these retreats and interventions are done with, that we will have better airline services, better aviation security, better customer service relations, and of course, Nigerian flyers will be guaranteed value for money. Anyway, that's how we wrap it up on today's edition of the arena. Tomorrow promises to be another interesting one, of course the last one for the week, and we hope that you get to be part of the conversation. Don't forget, even when